Should Penang be returned to Kedah? Historical, Legal and Political Perspectives by AZLAN Adnan. Historical perspective. The roots of Penang's separation from Kedah lie in the complex politics of the late 18th century. In 1786, Francis Light of the British East India Company, EIC, acquired the island of Penang, then called Pulau Penang, from Sultan Abdullah Mukarram Shah of Kedah under a loose agreement. The Sultan had sought military protection against threats from Siam, modern-day Thailand, and Burma. In exchange for a British presence, he agreed to lease Penang to the EIC. However, the British failed to deliver on the military support, prompting Sultan Abdullah to attempt a reconquest in 1791, which was repelled by the British. That same year, Kedah was forced to formalize the cession via a lease agreement in return for an annual honorarium. This cession under duress is what some today argue was illegitimate. Critics also point out that Francis Light was acting ultra vires, beyond his authority, since the EIC had not formally authorized him to acquire territory at that point. Moreover, the EIC's legal theory of purchase or lease blurred lines between colonization and legitimate diplomatic agreement. By 1800, the British also annexed Seberang Perai, then called Province Wellesley, under similar terms. The combined territory later became part of the Straits Settlements in 1826, a British Crown colony by 1867. Thus, historically, the acquisition of Penang from Kedah is tainted by unequal power dynamics, imperial overreach, and questionable legitimacy, but it has been in place for more than 2 centuries. Legal perspective. From a legal standpoint, Penang's status is unambiguous under both colonial and post-independence constitutional law. First, under the British, Penang was administered as a separate colony from Kedah. When the Straits Settlements were dissolved in 1946, Penang was incorporated into the Malayan Union, and then the Federation of Malaya in 1948, explicitly as a separate state. Kedah, by contrast, was among the unfederated Malay states, under British protection, not direct rule. This distinction laid the legal groundwork for Penang's separate status at independence. Upon Malaya's independence in 1957, Penang became one of the 11 constituent states of the Federation, with equal standing under the federal constitution. The Federal Agreement of 1948 and later the Federal Constitution of 1957 recognized Penang as a separate state. There is no constitutional mechanism for reassigning Penang back to Kedah without a fundamental amendment, and even then it would require consent from the Penang State Assembly, consent from the federal parliament, likely also a referendum or similar public consultation, consent of the Conference of Rulers. Moreover, the annual payment, today $10 million, made by the federal government to Kedah is regarded as an ex gratia honorarium, a symbolic continuation of the British-era lease, but with no binding legal weight on Penang's sovereignty. Kedah has no legal claim over Penang, and no court, domestic or international, would view the territory as anything but Malaysian and constitutionally separate from Kedah. Political perspective. Calls for Penang to be returned to Kedah have surfaced intermittently in recent years, usually from Kedah-based politicians seeking leverage or media attention. In May 2023, then Kedah Menteri Besar Muhammad Sanusi Mendinor controversially reignited this narrative, claiming Penang belongs to Kedah, prompting backlash from the federal government, the Penang state leadership, and civil society. These claims, while lacking legal foundation, resonate emotionally with some, particularly in rural Kedah. Politically, it can serve to rally support by invoking historical grievance, even if no serious policy proposal accompanies it. For Penangites, such rhetoric is seen as a threat to their autonomy and identity, particularly given Penang's distinct political culture, economic profile, and multi-ethnic demography. Penang is governed by a different political coalition than Kedah, and the suggestion of reintegration is often viewed through the prism of partisan rivalry. Politically, the idea has little traction outside certain quarters in Kedah and segments of the conservative electorate. Any serious move toward reintegration would also require popular support, which is currently absent in Penang, as well as federal acquiescence. Economically, Penang is one of Malaysia's most advanced states, contributing disproportionately to national GDP through electronics, manufacturing, and tourism. The idea of absorbing it into Kedah, a much poorer, more agrarian state, would raise not only governance questions, but also fiscal and developmental imbalances. Conclusion. From a historical point of view, Penang's separation from Kedah is the product of imperialist coercion and asymmetry, and may be morally questionable. Legally, however, Penang's status as a sovereign state within the Federation of Malaysia is clear, entrenched, and unchallengeable without major constitutional upheaval. The notion of returning Penang to Kedah, while revived for political purposes, has no legal standing and little support. It functions more as provocation than policy. A heartfelt light. To every soul whose hand did give, you've helped me dream, helped me live. In darkest hours your light came through, with hearts so kind, so pure, so true. Your gifts, like stars in deepest night, have steered me gently toward the light. Each coin, each word, each silent prayer, a thread of hope, so rich, so rare. My eyes once dimmed now seek the skies, and slowly clearer visions rise. Because of you, I dare to see the world again, its grace, its plea. Your compassion's flame will not just stay with me alone. It lights the way for others wandering through despair to feel the warmth of selfless care. You've shown what love in action means, in quiet ways through giving scenes. You've built a bridge from soul to soul and made the broken feel more whole. So let this thanks rise like a song, a melody both soft and strong. May your example gently call more hearts to rise to give. To fall into the joy of lifting pain, of planting hope where none remains. Your kindness walks beside me still, a light, a love, a living will.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to show your support.